Very good evening to online students too. Please switch on your cameras. Yes, please write a few thoughts. Try to be a rainbow in someone else's cloud. Don't misunderstand it in only one perspective. It is multidimensional, no? And the way you understood, please do it after selection. Okay. The next one is good for essay writing, paper on ethics and social issues. We are all humans until race disconnected us, religion separated us, politics divided us, and wealth classified us. The third one is a Chinese proverb. Teachers open the door, you must enter by yourself. It means the hidden messages that don't expect much from the classes. Okay, I hope you understand the message, no? For success in general and for this examination in particular, we don't have to be smarter than the rest, we have to be more disciplined than the rest. Average students have done much better in this exam than the meritorious students of the different universities. Because average student sometimes works harder than the meritorious students. So more disciplined approach would give you the success. Now get connected for the lecture. I believe that till in the last lecture we have completed last topic as ideal internal shift dateline. Am I right? Jet lag also we have done. Okay, fine. So then we have one major topic of time left, and that is daylight saving time. That will take about one and a half an hour, means 1 hour 15-20 minutes time, and then thereafter we'll start something very different. Now, first you write the title, daylight saving time. It is popular as DST. The whole world media calls it as DST, or in books you will find DST as a term, and complete it is daylight saving time. Now see, many of you might be knowing that there are some particular countries of the world which go for using two different concepts of time in different times of the year. That we Indians use only one watch for the whole country and for the whole year. But there are some countries of the world which change their watch, means their standard time, for one particular season of the year. And what exactly they do is that these countries, for their whole summer season, forward their watch time, means standard time, usually by 1 hour. I repeat my point, that there are many countries in the world, both in northern and southern hemisphere, which go for forwarding their watch time. Remember, when I say watch time, it means the standard time. They forward their watch time usually by 1 hour before the summer season begins, and for the whole summer season they use that forward watch, and when winter is about to come, they come back to their original standard time. This practice of forwarding the watch time by 1 hour usually for the entire summer season is what world calls as DST, daylight saving time. Now, what is the objective of this approach, this practice? The objective is energy conservation. That by doing this change of time on their watches for the summer season, today you learn in the next 1 hour's time that these countries save on the consumption of energy resources. Or should I say the other way around? They use their sun's energy more efficiently. So for that reason, it is called as daylight saving time. That there is some sort of saving, conservation of energy by this practice. How and why, that you will understand very soon. So some particular countries do this, and you know, in India we don't have this practice, and there are many other countries like India. Okay. So to understand all the different aspects of this topic, first we need to know some basic details about the chapter of seasonality. If you remember, in my second and third lecture earlier, I have been talking about something about seasonality, remember? And almost I need the same what I have already done with you. And remember, there would be another full lecture on seasonality, but that I'll cover for some reason little late. My 14th or 15th lecture with you will be on a very interesting topic, reasons for seasons. Means we'll see how do we have seasons on the earth surface, what are the factors behind it. But till then, we'll just keep talking about seasonality in bits and pieces as per our requirements. So I'll go for a revision of some important elements of seasonality, which you already have experienced in life or which you'll understand from my previous lectures. And then we'll relate this particular topic of DST with those dimensions of seasonality and understand all the details of the topic, right? Now, you all would agree if I say that seasonality gets manifested for all of us through changing length of a day. Is this understood? Means change in the length of a day is an indication, is a manifestation of seasonality. For example, I say when darkness starts prevailing earlier in the evening, it's a signal that days are getting shorter. It means we are approaching winter. So winter is a time when the days are shorter, nights are longer. Summer is a time when the days are longer and nights are shorter. So one of the major manifestations, I'm not saying this is the only way we understand seasonality, but this is one major manifestation of seasonality. Okay. That length of the day changes over different times of the year as such. Summer is the time when days are longer, winter is the time when days are shorter. Now, what decides this length of a day? If you remember in the previous lecture, we have mentioned the concept of great circle. Great circle is one which divides a sphere into two exact halves. And I told you in that lecture, and we'll be doing it again in seasonality, that as Earth revolves around the sun in 1 year's time, at every moment of this journey, sunlight divides our Earth exactly into two halves. The light half means the sunlit hemisphere called day, and the dark half means night. And we learned in the third lecture perhaps, that if my left hand is the Earth and the portion of my left hand towards you is the light half and the portion towards the board is the dark half, then I said the edge of the light half means sunlit hemisphere is a great circle, and this great circle is named as circle of illumination. Very good, you remember all this. So circle of illumination. Okay. Now, length of a day would depend upon how the circle of illumination cuts my Earth into two halves. Remember, now I'll make a statement. Please confirm that you understand this. I say, and I'll do it in two parts so that it becomes easier for the class. I would have told you earlier also. Circle of illumination, being a great circle, always cuts the Earth into two halves. Is that okay for everyone? Now, the other point you have to bring in discussion is that as Earth revolves around the sun in 1 year's time, because of some 5 reasons, which we'll discuss in the chapter of seasonality. Means we'll not discuss those reasons today. But for some 5 reasons, as Earth goes around the sun in 1 year's time, the relationship of Earth and sun keeps changing. I've told you about this earlier, and I'll show you some picture also that I would have showed earlier, which will illustrate this point. So what you have to visualize is that as Earth goes around the sun in 1 year's time, because of some reasons, relationship of Earth and sun keeps changing. By relationship change, I mean that how the Earth is positioned to the sun, that will keep changing. So if the relationship of Earth and sun is changing, then certainly it's common sense point that the light of the sun, called circle of illumination, will cut the Earth differently at different times of the year. For example, if this pen is the axis of the Earth, axis means imaginary line joining North Pole with South Pole passing through the center of the Earth. So whenever I'll say this pen is the axis, you will have to visualize a globe around it, right? So what is the relationship of Earth and sun in the month of December? Let's take a particular date which is important, 21st December. I would have told you about solstices and equinoxes, so I'm just going to revise that. So see, on 21st December, if this is the way the Earth is, sun is here. Now if you have a globe around it, so can I say on 21st December, the southern hemisphere is leaning towards the sun. My left hand is the sun, this is the Earth. So southern hemisphere is leaning towards the sun. It means southern hemisphere has summer. Our hemisphere, the northern one, is leaning away. We have winter. And the Earth is so placed to the sun that sun is overhead at Tropic of Capricorn. Right? Now, on this particular day, circle of illumination means light of the sun will cut the Earth like this. I told you last time, that second lecture perhaps, the farthest reach of the light on 21st December in North Hemisphere would be up to Arctic Circle, 66.5 degrees. So it means if I'm holding, let's say this is our globe, or think of it as an apple, and think of a knife which is going through Arctic Circle and then to the center, and then the apple is getting cut into two halves. Can I say in this cut, longer lengths of the parallels of the southern hemisphere are under sunlight? It means people in southern hemisphere who are having summer, they would have longer days and nights would be shorter. And since in December we are having winter in northern hemisphere, since our hemisphere is leaning away, so can I say when the light cuts the earth this way, so shorter proportions of the parallels of the northern hemisphere would be under sunlight. Our days are shorter, nights are longer. Now, as earth goes for next 3 months journey to cover 1/4 of the orbit of the earth around the sun, every day the relationship of earth and sun will keep changing. But daily changes are small, so we'll focus on some important days only. After 3 months, approximately on 20th March, earth and sun, take me as a sun, earth and sun would be so placed. On 20th March, none of the two hemispheres would be leaning towards the sun or away. And sun would appear to be right over the equator. Remember here, sun was over the Tropic of Capricorn. It means as earth moved for 3 months, it appears as if sun also has moved from Tropic of Capricorn to equator. And on 20th March, circle of illumination will go and cut the earth like this. Means light will pass through North Pole as well as South Pole. It means as if apple on the table, knife goes vertically down. When the light will pass through the North Pole and South Pole and cuts the earth into two halves, can I say in this cut, every parallel of our earth would have half length under light and half length under darkness, and that is why we call it as equinox. And I hope you also understood in this 3 months journey, the days have become longer in northern hemisphere. Here they were shorter here, they are much longer here now, right? And days are getting shorter in southern hemisphere. It means we are approaching summer in northern hemisphere and Australians are approaching winter. And after 3 months, on June 21st, this is the relationship. Sun is here, northern hemisphere is leaning towards, southern hemisphere is leaning away. Our days are longer, nights are shorter. Australian days are shorter, nights are longer. And after 3 months, it would be September 22nd, similar to March 20th. So can I say with this 5 minutes of discussion, class understands that the circle of illumination, being a great circle, always cuts the earth into two halves. But it does so differently at different times of the year. Yes, please. This is the crux of the chapter of seasonality. This is what gives you changing length of a day. Clear? Now, if this is all making sense, now I'll show you through a picture, like I have done this earlier also, I'll just repeat, because through this only I'll get the reason for the topic of the day, right? So I'll show you something what I've done earlier, means I'll show you that on a particular day, how is the earth being cut by the sunlight and how the length of the day varies. Okay. Now I'll make a few statements. You just appreciate them without the diagram, and if not understood, you will confirm the understanding through that sketch. I will say that whenever you have to cut an apple into two halves, you have to pass the knife through the center of the apple. So therefore, if you visualize it for earth, can I say equator is the only parallel of the earth which will always get evenly divided? So it means you need to understand that throughout the year, equator is the only parallel where you will have 12 hours of day and 12 hours of night. It means this statement that seasonality gets manifested by variation in length of a day is a wrong statement, or is not correct for the equator at least. Yes or no? Because there is no variation in the length of a day for equator. But as I leave my equator and I go towards the North Pole or South Pole, the statement becomes true that seasonality is manifested by changing length of a day. But today you will see that as we go higher in latitudes, the seasonal variation in the length of a day keeps increasing. Think of this statement. You know, length of a day varies from one season to the other. But this variation, which is zero at the equator, increases as I go towards the poles. It means higher the latitudes, more is the variation in the length of a day from one season to the other. Now, in June, which is the summer hemisphere? Northern hemisphere. And southern hemisphere is winter hemisphere. Now I'll make a statement. You just appreciate that you have understood, just confirm whether it makes sense or not. If not, I'll do it on the board now with the help of diagram. So I make, and this is what will lead us to the topic. I'll show you now that in summer hemisphere, and which is summer hemisphere in June, northern hemisphere. In summer hemisphere, higher I go in latitudes, longer is the summer day. And if I go higher in latitudes in the winter hemisphere, days become shorter, nights become longer. Okay. So this is the crux for today's lecture. Let me just show it so that everyone understands this, and then I'll relate it to the chapter of the day. Now see, I take this particular date, June 21st. Northern hemisphere is the summer hemisphere, southern hemisphere is winter hemisphere, and the rule is that there is no variation in the length of a day at the equator, but this variation, the length of the day, keeps increasing as I go towards the higher latitudes. And I said in summer hemisphere, as I go higher in latitudes, day becomes very long, longer and longer. So see this in this result here. June 21st, light of the sun cuts the earth like this. Now equator has half length under light and half length under darkness. So 12 hours of day and 12 hours of night. But since it is summer in northern hemisphere, it means our day has to be longer. So when you are near equator, when you are here, summer day is longer than the night. Yes, miss? More proportion is under light, less proportion the parallel is under darkness. So day is longer, and that's what we understand as summer. But now as I go higher, you notice the proportion of this area, of this line, is more than this darkness here. If I go further higher, day is getting further longer. So higher the latitudes, longer is the summer day. Is that understood? And if though it is not required today, but oppositors also seen here that higher I go in the winter hemisphere, days are getting shorter, nights are getting longer. But I don't need this today, I need summer hemisphere. So the point with which we make a connection with the topic of DST is that higher the latitudes, longer is the summer day. Now what does that mean? That these countries during their summer season have a very early sunrise. It means if during your summer vacations in India, means summer vacations of northern hemisphere, if you go to a northern European city, if it is your first trip, even in a city like Paris, which is not very high in latitude, if it is your first trip, the first surprise you will get is when you sleep in the hotel room for the first night, the very early morning, you will be disturbed in your sleep because you'll have a lot of sunlight reaching your room because you didn't put the curtain on the window. Because as an Indian, you are not used to it. So you have a lot of light in your room very early in the morning, which you never expected because you had early sunrise there. And the second surprise will be there that you are walking the streets of Paris or other such city. The time in the watch is 10 or 10:30 p.m. But you have so much of light around you as if it is 4:30 p.m. of Delhi. It means the city is going to have very late sunset. Okay. So this is the point on which I now make a connection. So everyone is okay with this point? Higher the latitudes in summer hemisphere, longer is the summer day. Means early sunrise and late sunset. Means the sun is available to these countries for more number of hours. So an idea came in the minds of these people that if the sun is available with us for more number of hours in summer, then why are letting this energy of the sun go waste? Why should we not make a change in our daily routine in summer season so that we can accomplish most of our activities in the broad daylight itself rather than doing it with other source of energy? I repeat my point. Take your time to understand. An idea came in the minds of these people that if sun is with us for from very early in the morning till late in the evening, why should we not use this energy of the sun more efficiently? And if we use sun's energy more efficiently, we'll have to use other source of energy less. So this idea came that we should not let this energy go waste. We should do something to make use of this energy of the sun more efficiently. And for that, we must make a change in our daily routine for summer season. Means the way we run our life in winter, that should not be the way we run our life in summer. We should make some change in our daily routine so that we can do most of our things in the daylight, in the sun's light only. For this reason, they started this practice called DST. Means now after a few minutes, not at this moment, you will understand gradually. I take you further that for this reason, to use the sun's energy more efficiently, they started a practice called DST. Now, before we go into what it is and how it is a tool for energy conservation, let us go for seeing it historically. That is, the question in the mind may be that who was that first person, scholar, who emphasized this particular point, who highlighted this point. That generally the historians give this credit to the famous American statesman and scientist. He was a very multifaceted personality. He was means he had many things rolled into one person. And I'm talking about, many of you know, Benjamin Franklin. So my notes will tell you that Benjamin Franklin was perhaps the first person to make this observation about this advantage the countries had in higher latitude. It is written in history books that in 1784, in one of the essays Benjamin Franklin wrote, he suggested about this point that since we have a long summer day, we should make a change in our daily routine in summer for use of this energy more efficiently, for energy conservation. But interestingly, it is written in history books that when he suggested this in that essay, he himself was half serious about it. And since he himself was half serious, no one else took him seriously. And this idea, though was a great idea, got lost in history books. Now, why this great person was half serious about such a good idea? The reason is the time. Don't you think 1784 was too early for energy conservation? Means, when do you think of energy conservation generally, or conservation of anything in life? When you are producing a lot, consuming a lot, wasting a lot, then you think of conservation. See, when mankind has lost all the water resources in most of the areas, the way we used to have earlier, now we are talking about water conservation, no? When we had plenty of it, why we had no reason, we were not discussing conservation at that time. So I hope you understand that 1784 was too early a time for energy conservation, no? Because that was a time when we have hardly started using some new source of energy. So since idea was much ahead of time, perhaps for that reason, it was like Franklin himself did not take it seriously, and people also didn't take this idea that seriously, so the idea was lost. But it is said that at the time of First World War, when these countries needed more energy and they had problems in the production of energy because of the war, then the countries of northern and southern hemisphere, of middle and higher latitudes, realized that perhaps the time has come for us to go for something for that suggestion which was given by Benjamin Franklin. And as per that suggestion, they started one by one going for this forwarding a watch, usually by 1 hour, for the whole summer season, and that gave them the advantage. And this practice over a period of time became very popular in both the northern hemisphere countries as well as southern hemisphere in the middle and higher latitudes. Okay. Now, let me coin a very interesting term. Is this point okay for everyone? Now, I leave this because now we come to our main topic. I'll give you an interesting phrase for it. Books write this topic as daylight saving time, or in short, DST. But I'll make a phrase which will help you to understand this topic a little better, and it would be more interesting also. They are forwarding their watches for the summer season. So what these countries do is, those who go for this practice, they forward their watches just before the summer is about to begin. Means they get ready for summer by forwarding the watch just before the summer begins. And you know, summer begins before summer you have season called spring. So I say DST can also be called as spring forward. Means when do they forward their watches? Somewhere in spring, that is just before the summer is about to start. Having forwarded the watch in spring, throughout the summer they will use that forwarded watch. And when the winter is about to set in, just before the winter begins, they will bring their watch back to what the original time used to be. You know, before winter, the season is called autumn. And many of you would be knowing that in these middle and high latitude countries, autumn is also called fall. The reason is that it is this time of the year when the trees in middle and high latitude countries shed their leaves. Now, have you started having ecology classes? No. So in ecology, you learn this particular point. If you wish, I can speak on this for 5 minutes and then come back to my topic. Okay. So let's leave. Means let me show you that I used to teach ecology earlier. Okay. Now, since I'm using this point, I should tell you otherwise also. So let's leave this topic for 5 minutes. See here. We have, broadly speaking, two kinds of vegetation, two kinds of trees: evergreen trees and deciduous trees. Now, what are deciduous trees? Those trees which have adapted themselves for survival in some difficult condition by shedding their leaves almost completely in a particular time of the year. So when there is a constraint, you need to go for adaptation for survival, right? And what is the constraint for a vegetation? Vegetation needs heat and moisture. These are the two basic elements for life on the earth's surface. So let's talk about first India, then we'll talk about middle latitudes, then you'll understand better. In India, deciduous trees means those trees which have adapted to tough condition for survival by shedding the leaves. Leaves means a load on the body. So they shed their leaves for survival in a particular time almost completely, to say do away with the tough time and wait for the good time to come. So in India, when do deciduous trees would shed their leaves? In India, we don't have any problem with the heat. We are hot throughout the year, right? So trees don't have a problem with the heat as such. We are a tropical country. But India has problems in moisture. And India in particular has monsoon type climate. So you know, India's monsoon comes from June to September, and about 3/4 of India's rain comes in these 4 months. It means 8 months of India from October to May are relatively very dry. Now I'm saying 8 months are dry. But now you think of within these 8 months, the months like March, April, May and June till the monsoon reaches your area. You know, monsoon starts from Kerala for the mainland of India on 1st of June on an average, and then gradually it covers rest of India. So there are many areas of India which will not even get moisture in most of the time of the June also. Now, can I say these months are the months of India when heat is building up almost everywhere? And with the building up of heat, trees would need more moisture. But India doesn't have moisture in these months. So think of, in a hypothetical way, think of the ancestors of the trees which are present outside today. Means ancestors of these trees millions of years back. don't think they would have understood that we are in a wrong country. Means when we need moisture, this country doesn't have moisture. So they had only two choices. Either they should perish, or if they wish to survive, they must adapt. This is a rule for UPSC exam also. Adapt or perish, now as ever, is nature's inexorable imperative. Understood? Did I give you this thought earlier? So it means now as ever, means today as well as it was always been. The only rule is for survival that either you adapt or perish. So those trees understood that we are in a wrong country. The only way to survive is adaptation. So these trees of India started adapting, and you know, over a long period of time, nature adapts. So what was the adaptation? That these trees of India survived by adaptation, that is, shed your leaves almost completely for the tough months, like March, April and May. And this is the time you see more leaves on the road outside, yes or no? So as per the species nature, the trees are shedding the leaves. Someone would even start in February, right? Depending on the kind of tree it is, then March, April and May till the monsoon comes, no? So Indian deciduous trees shed their leaves in dry summer months. Is it okay? And these are the dry summer months, right? With the hope that when achhe din aayenge, we'll thrive back to our previous glory. Means what is shedding of leaves? Like when head of the family is not earning much, takes the children of the family to Nani's house. That tells them that stay here and I'll take you back when achhe din aayenge, right? This is what nature is doing. This is about India. And but do remember at the same time, what are evergreen trees? Evergreen trees doesn't mean that they do not shed the leaves. Remember, evergreen simply means they are green throughout the year. It means they do shed the leaves, but there is no particular time when they shed their leaves almost completely. Remember, some trees shed the leaves out of compulsion, some do it by fashion. Yes, no. By fashion, I mean there's a process of rejuvenation, right? But they have no compulsion, so they are more of evergreen, right? Means always green, but they do shed their leaves, right? More in ecology class. Now, we come to this area of the world, what we are interested today. Where is the practice of DST? It would be in those countries where you have very long summer day, yes or no? India also has a long, India's summer day is also long. But our difference of summer and winter day is not much. So we Indians will not gain much by going for a practice called DST. So it means you learn today that DST is not a good practice for tropical areas. Because here we have summer length of the day more than the winter length of the day. But the difference is not much. But when you come to this area of the world, summer length of the day is much, much more than the winter length of the day, and that is the reason that these are the countries which are going for DST in general. In our countries, we'll have one, very less gain, and second, perhaps we have low levels of literacy, and you know, in such a scenario, if we go for such a practice, it will lead to more chaos than gain. For example, our friendly nation nearby, Pakistan, has adopted DST twice or thrice in last 15 years. But all the time it went for DST, within a few weeks they had to withdraw. First they understood that geography is in our favor, and second they understood this is not our cup of tea. Because low levels of literacy lead to more confusion rather than any big gain as such. So basically it's a practice of middle and higher latitude countries, right? Now let us talk about briefly for shedding of leaves in this area. Remember, in this area of the world, the moisture is not a problem. In our area, heat was not a problem, no? In this area, remember, I have given you a hint that we'll have fronts here. And these fronts are going to make temperate cyclones very soon. And cyclones will give us good amount of precipitation here, almost throughout the region and almost throughout the year. They don't have precipitation like India, that some months are having abundance of rain and rest you don't have moisture. So here we'll have fronts. Fronts will give us temperate cyclones. Temperate cyclones are not destructive. They are very frequent cyclones, and they are one major reason for giving lot of precipitation throughout the year as well as throughout the region. So precipitation, moisture is not a problem. Problem for the trees here is the tough winter, that it is difficult for them to survive severe winter. So what they do is they have adapted to survive the tough winter by shedding their leaves almost completely before winter begins, and to thrive back after winter is over. So it means that trees in this area will shed their leaves in which season? In the autumn season. And therefore these Europeans and Americans will call this season as fall, because leaves fall on the ground at that time. Okay, is this understood? Now I come back to my topic. So I make an interesting phrase. What is DST? Spring forward, fall back. So where you have written the topic, please write within bracket this also, that in spring they forward their watches and use it for the entire summer season, and in autumn season, means in the fall, they will come back to their original time. So before I take you further, please write a few points of seasonality on the margin. Please make a big margin and write a few points so that we use that as the basis for this topic. Whatever you understood, you just write those points on the margin. Please write. Changing length of a day. First observation, changing length of a day is a major manifestation of seasonality. Changing length of a day is a major manifestation of seasonality. Second point, length of a day depends upon the effect. The length of a day depends upon the effect that how circle of illumination cuts the earth into two halves. Next point, circle of illumination being a great circle, always cuts the earth into two halves. Sorry. Circle of illumination being a great circle always cuts the earth into two halves, but it does so differently at different times of the year. Circle of illumination being a great circle always cuts the earth into two halves, but it does so differently at different times of the year. Next point, seasonal variation, the length of a day, seasonal variation in the length of a day increases from equator to the poles. Seasonal variation in the length of a day increases towards the poles. Put a hyphen and write this main point. Put a hyphen, right? Higher the latitudes, put a comma, longer is the summer day. Underline this phrase. Higher the latitudes, longer is the summer day. Higher the latitudes, longer is the summer day. Now, please confirm all the points you've written. Are they understood? Yes, please. Now, so at this moment, I believe class is with me on the point that in lower latitudes of the world, summer length of the day is more than the winter length of the day, but the difference is not much. But in this area of the world, higher I go, I find summer length of the day is much more than winter length of the day, right? So idea came in the minds of these people that we should make a change in our daily routine in summer season so that we use this energy of the sun, which is given to us by nature, more efficiently. Is that okay for everyone? Now, for this more efficient use of energy, these countries went for the change, that is, they went for a practice whereby they forward their watches for the whole summer season, usually by how much time? 1 hour. And they use this forwarded watch for the entire summer season, and when the winter is about to set in again, they go back to their original time. And this is what leads to energy conservation, means more efficient use of the daylight. So this is called daylight saving time. But the class would be waiting from my side to show how forwarding a watch will lead to energy conservation. Yes or no? That is the main point which is troubling you. So let's understand with a very simplified approach that how forwarding a watch leads to energy conservation. Let us say you as an American are in some particular time zone of US, and let's say your official day as an American is from 10 in the morning to 6 in the evening. So let's say in one particular time zone of US, an American is working from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Now, let us think of summer season. As already discussed, in the higher latitudes, you have a very long summer day. So during summer, this American would have an early sunrise here and very late sunset. So there's a very long summer day with this American. Now, if Americans are having this as the official time to work as a nation or as a community from 10 in the morning to 6 p.m., if they keep the same time in summer also, it means they will start their day at 10 a.m. So if they start their day at 10 a.m., don't you think this energy which was there with them from the sun from early in the morning till this 10 a.m. is not being used efficiently? When would you start using sun's energy as a nation? When you are out on the streets to work for the day? Yes, please. If you are sitting at home for the watch to turn 10 for you to start your day, don't think this energy of the sun which was available since very early in the morning in summer season, you are not using it. It means the sun is there outside, but you have not started working. So for all your activities, you are waiting for 10 to be there on the watch. So as a nation, you decide that for this summer season, we will change our daily routine. And how did they go for it? By forwarding their watch by, usually by 1 hour, right? Now, I make some statement, you please confirm this, that you understand. Can I say, when you forward your watch by 1 hour, means when you forward your standard time by 1 hour, if that forwarded watch shows 10, can I say in reality the time of that time zone would be 9 a.m.? It means, can I say, as an American, when you forward your watch by 1 hour, it means you have preponed your day's activities by 1 hour. So this is what you have to understand here. If you are using the same routine, you are starting your day at 10 during summer. But since you have forwarded your watch as a nation, it means you have preponed your day's work by 1 hour. It means instead of 10, you are starting from 9 in the morning. Is that okay for everyone? It means this energy of the sun, which was earlier not being used efficiently, now the nation will start using this 1 hours of energy. This 1 hour's energy is the conservation part here. Earlier you are using energy from what time onwards? 10 a.m. But now you have forwarded your watch, and you know forward watch by 1 hour means that when it shows 10, in reality the time is 9 a.m. So it is like preponing your day's work. Is okay? So this is that energy conservation. Now these Europeans and Americans believe that we have some more advantages out of it. Means this is our main reason, but we have some secondary advantages also. Let's see what are the added advantages for this country or for these kind of communities. Having started their day 1 hour earlier, they will keep using this energy of the sun and they will keep doing all their daily activities. And in the evening, In the evening, when the forwarded watch shows 6 p.m. for the office to end, can I say in reality the time of that time zone would be 5 p.m.? It means the whole community or the nation has stopped working 1 hour earlier in the evening. It means now they have a longer evening available to them. And which evening? The evening which has a lot of sunlight also, because sun is going to set very late. Now this community, this nation can go for all kinds of entertainment. They can go to club for their other activities. They can play a game of football or basketball or anything else, and that too in the broad daylight. It means all kinds of activities which are there after office hours, they would be all in the presence of daylight, because sun is going to set very late in the evening. And you know, these Americans or Europeans, they really enjoy their evenings. If you go to Paris, you'll find restaurants full in the evening after office hours, because these Europeans don't they don't waste time making food at home like we Indians, our families are doing. There they eat almost everything from outside, right from the beginning of the day till late. They sit with their friends in the restaurants for hours together. Same is in London, for example. Consume a lot of beer and all that, especially on weekend. Means you cannot have a seat in any restaurant in London on a weekend without reservation 2 or 3 days in advance. Means if you go without reservation, they make a joke of you that how come you dare enter our restaurant without a booking, right? This is how they treat the outsiders when they go without reservation there. So their evenings are full of enjoyment, multifaceted personality, like development of all kinds, and that too with the broad. So it means they are getting what it means. They have a clear advantage of increased leisure time. And when I say this in my classes, some Indian students misunderstand that. Some Indian student will go for saying, sir, what they earned in the morning, they are wasting in the evening. Because for we Indians, concept of entertainment is wasting of time. Because we Indians, as being, I'm sorry to say, I'm proud to be an Indian, but don't misunderstand the point. But you know, in developing countries, what is the problem? Unfortunately, we are wasting our life on living itself. No, survival takes most of our time in life. Yes or no? The 3 classes a day for survival. Is this understood? So many of us, means we have a wrong concept in a country like India, as if this is waste. Remember, this is not waste of time. They're doing all kinds of things for their personality development in the evening, right here. Now, what else is the benefit? These European and Americans also believe that since everything is preponed by 1 hour, so there are less number of accidents on the highways. And that's the truth. Studies have shown that darkness kills on the highways, no? So if everything is happening 1 hour earlier, so journeys become safer. They say our children who had gone to far off school, when they're coming back on the highways through their buses, they are safer journeys, not only for the children, but for everyone. They have proved through studies that accidents are less because of this preponement of everything of the day by 1 hour. So for this main reason of energy conservation and for these extra advantages, DST became very popular as a practice. Okay. Now, before I go further, there's little more to come. There would be a few students in my class who might be thinking of advising these Europeans and Americans that instead of changing their watch time, they could have simply changed their office time. Yes or no? So how many of you are thinking of this advice being given to Europeans and Americans? Please raise your hand and be honest, because I know there are 20% students there. Yes. Now there are some students who, after doing this topic for half an hour, they have started thinking of advising these Europeans and Americans who have been ruling the world. Remember, they are ruling the world since long. Even today they are ruling us in indirect ways. Our leaders don't let us know. I hope you understand the point. Now, those of you who are thinking that we could have advised these Europeans and Americans that instead of changing their office time, they should have simply changed their, instead of changing the watch time, they could have simply changed their office time. If you think little deeper for this, you'll understand your advice is no good. Remember, these are the countries with high levels of high ideals of democratic principles. These countries, people do not want any constraints from the government side. Now imagine in a country where you have high ideals of democratic principles, you are asking the country to start office 1 hour earlier. Don't you think different offices, different enterprises, different parts of the society may respond differently? Yes, please. And you cannot have a policeman everywhere to check that office is being opened at 10 or 9. So advising the different enterprises of the country to change their office time can lead to a chaos in the society, because these countries have a lot of, this means they really look for individual freedom to means in an extreme way. So they don't want such directions from the government. So changing office time can lead to a chaos. So now you think of what is good about changing the watch time. Remember, when you change the watch of the country, you make everyone in the country fall in line with that time. Remember, no civilian can go against the time of the watch. Am I right or not? For example, as an Indian, if you wish to be a part of this class or any other activity in the country, can you hate IST and not use it? You can't do both the things together, that you hate IST and be a part of these classes also. So it means when a country in Europe or North America changes its watch, in one stroke it makes everyone fall in line. And not only the nation falls in line, the whole international community falls in line with you. For example, if in your family you have a brother or sister or someone studying in Paris or London, don't think whatever watch they use, you will have to use for communication with your son or daughter or brother or sister. Or if you are a business person, your business interests are there in Paris, you have to follow their watch. Civil aviation industry would have to follow their watch. So making a change on the watch is much better an idea than changing the office time. So never make that suggestion that they could have done that. They are very shrewd people, they are very clever, and they have been doing it since First World War. So they know a lot about it, much more than what we would know about their practice as such. Now this is one part. Now let me touch one other dimension. Now this practice after First World War was picked up by many countries from both the hemispheres. And there was a time when it was very popular practice almost everywhere in these middle and higher latitude countries. But now in the last 10, 15 or 20 years, we have seen many of these countries are now thinking again. And some of them have dropped this particular practice in South America somewhere. And in some countries of Europe and North America, rethinking is being done. And the idea is that some countries are thinking of either stopping it completely, or they are thinking that we should keep DST for the whole year as it is. Means instead of changing our watch twice a year, remember in this practice, what is the problem? You are changing your watch in spring and then back in the autumn season there. And some communities are against this practice. They say it disturbs our sleeping patterns, the kind of sleep we have been used to in one season, that gets disturbed in the next. So some are worried about their health issues, that this is not good. Some people go against this practice because they say it's not in line with our religious values. Means all kinds of reasons are given in religious dimension. And some are health issues related points. And there are some studies which have shown that when a country in Europe or North America goes for DST, the alcohol consumption of the country increases. You know, longer evening. I said, now these Americans, Europeans will go to club. And you know, when you go to club, you don't play football always. Some will sit somewhere else. And when you sit longer, you consume more, right? So some studies have shown that the consumption of alcohol, which is not so good for health, would lead to would be a problem. So they say we should, as a nation, we should stop this practice of DST, because this is what makes the people sit longer in the restaurants and all that. So for all these kind of reasons, there have been new debates in this field, and some countries, some few countries have stopped this practice, and some are having a rethought over it. And what they are thinking today is, either we should stop this DST or we should adopt DST for the whole year. But remember, that also would have some problems. Don't think a country which goes for DST for the whole year may have problems in the winter season, that you are starting 1 hour earlier. So you might have to start in the darkness itself, right? So all these are being debated now. And this topic becomes important for this next year's exam for the reason US has passed a bill. It is still to go to the House of Representatives, that where they have given this particular change, that let us make DST permanent for the whole year. Means instead of changing our watch twice, let us make it permanent with 1 hour of forwarding for the whole year. There are plus points, they are negative, but we need to wait for the Americans to decide, because it is not still an act. So we'll have to see which states will go for it finally and how exactly they will do it. So those details will keep emerging in the newspaper. Now, are these things understood till now? Now let's bring a new dummy. Topic is still, there is something more. Now I'll take you to one more dimension of seasonality. See here. Till now the understanding is that these countries of the world have very long, or should I say their summer length of the day is much more than the winter length of the day. This is the primary reason. Mind the words, we are going to have new reason now. What is the primary reason for these countries to go for DST? That their summer day is very long in comparison to winter day. But now I'll share with you that these countries of middle and higher latitude have one more secondary reason in favor of this DST. Means this is the main reason for their adoption of DST, but they have one more, I'll call it a secondary or supporting reason for the practice of DST. And in the process, you'll understand, we in tropical areas neither have the first reason in our favor and not the second one, which I'm going to share now. Okay. So what is that second reason? Let's see. You all are aware about dawn and twilight. This also I'll teach you in seasonality chapter in more detail. Now, you know, every one of you knows in the class that after the sun sets in the evening, we don't have abrupt darkness completely immediately. There's a short duration after sunset when you have diffused light in the sky, and that is what we call as twilight. Every one of you have seen it. And some of you also know, that there is a similar diffused light period in the morning also. Yes or no? Those who study through the night, the hostlers know, right? That before sun rises in the morning, we have a similar diffused light period in the sky, what is called dawn. So dawn is a diffused light period before sunrise, and similar diffused light period after the sunset is twilight. In some references, they don't use both the words. They simply use the word twilight. But when you use single word, then you will say twilight is a diffused light before sunrise and after sunset. If you use the term period here, then you have to use two, dawn and twilight. Now, from your school physics, you know that as the sunlight passes through the atmosphere, because of the molecules of the gases, plus all kinds of particulate matter like dust particles or pollutants and other things, or suspensions from forest fires, volcanic eruptions, etc., all these lead to scattering and refraction of sunlight. So because of scattering and refraction of sunlight, there is diffused illumination in the sky. So dawn and twilight are the result of scattering and refraction of sunlight. Now, let me make one simple diagram, which I'll be doing it in seasonality again. See here. Let us say this line represents Earth's surface. And I ask you to compare 2 or 3 cases. Let us say in the first case, sunlight is coming at 90 degrees or close to 90 degrees to the Earth's surface. Can I say when the angle of the sun's rays is higher, the thickness of the atmosphere being crossed is less? Therefore, scattering and refraction of light would be less, and hence the ratio of dawn and twilight would be also less. But the moment I go for lowering the sun's rays angle little bit, there's a progressive increase in the thickness of the atmosphere to be crossed. See here, if I lower the angle, the ray of light will come like this. And see what has happened. Large thickness of the atmosphere is being crossed. So scattering and reflection would be much more. And dawn and twilight would be very long periods. Size of the letter indicates the amount, okay? Now, we come to third. If I lower the angle further, now, so what is the rule you see from this sketch? Keep your eyes on the board. Can I say, higher the angle of the sun's rays, lesser are the thickness of the atmosphere to be crossed, and lesser are the amounts of scattering and refraction, and hence shorter are the durations of dawn and twilight. Okay, now let us transfer this on the globe. You know, in the lower latitudes of the world, sun's rays are generally or throughout the year at higher angles, and higher latitudes of the world have generally lower angles of the sun's rays. So it means our areas will have shorter durations of dawn and twilight. And as I go towards the poles, there's a progressive increase in the duration of dawn and twilight. So I'll give you two examples today, and a few more will come in the chapter of seasonality. Remember, scattering and reflection will also get affected by pollution levels in an area, how much pollutants are there in the air. So I'll give you an average value. If you are near equator, on an average, you may have for 30-35 minutes diffused light before sunrise, and for about the same time after the sunset. So for about half an hour, you have diffused illumination of the sky before sunrise and after sunset if you are a resident near equator. But if you go to a northern European city, let's say you are somewhere around 62 degrees north latitude. Now I repeat something what I said earlier. As an Indian, if you go for your summer vacations for the first time to a northern European city, I said first surprise in the trip would be you have very early sunrise. Second surprise, late sunset. Third surprise, at this location of 60 plus degrees north latitude during summer, you may have 2 to 2.5 hours of twilight. Imagine the twilight, which was about half an hour in the northern European city during summer, it might be 4 to 5 times that duration. It means one, the sun is going to set very late, and even after the late sunset, you have a long duration of diffused light. And if this was not sufficient for you to get surprise, next morning before early sunrise, you have 2 to 2.5 hours of dawn also. It means in your first trip, we will be wondering, when do these Europeans have darkness at night? Because sometimes see in some particular latitudes, what may happen? This long twilight may merge into the next day's twilight, dawn, and you may have a result called white night. So there are certain European cities where there is a celebration of a night called white night. The entire city comes out on the streets to celebrate that today is the night when you don't have darkness left. This would be a part of your lecture on seasonality later. So with this, can I now conclude that these countries have main reason for DST, that their summer length of the day is much more than the winter length of the day. And what is the second supporting reason? That they also have, no, don't say that they have long duration of dawn and twilight. Remember, at dawn they are sleeping. While sleeping, they will not conserve energy, no. So simply say they also have long duration of twilight. Means one, they have late sunset, and thereafter also they have a long duration of twilight. So one, summer day is very long, and second, twilight in the evening is also long. And problems for the lower latitude countries is neither we have very long summer day, nor do we have a long duration of twilight in the evening. Means none of the two reasons is in our favor for this practice of DST. But as I said that There is a rethought being given by many countries in the middle and higher latitude, but still it remains a practice. Now, I said there is a practice of how much of forwarding a watch? Usually 1 hour. But if those who have understood the topic, they would appreciate that if need be, in the higher latitudes, you might go for 2 hours of forwarding also. So if you go for some particular historical times when you had some crisis, some particular areas of higher latitudes have even gone for 2 hours. But if you look at the world today, in general, it is the practice of 1 hour. Okay. Now, there's a student asking what is dusk. See, we use the term dusk in simple, like in general references for twilight only. So the diffused light in the evening is technically more better called as twilight, right? Otherwise, in simple English, we may call it as the diffused light as dusk as such. Okay. Now there is a student, Amit says that this is not understood. This angle point is not understood. I repeat for Amit and others. When the sun's rays are at higher angle, the thickness of the atmosphere being crossed with the light of the sun is less. So amount of scattering and refraction by the gases of the molecules, gases and particulate matter would be less. So duration of dawn and twilight would be short. This is called 80% effort in life. I tell you, I'll tell, like, let him go. See, must learn to sit for 2.5 hours in the lecture. No, if there is a physical problem, you have all the reasons to go. No teacher will stop you. But as a student, you just watch these students who go out. They are regular faces. They have no problem. The problem only is that they can't sit for more than 40 minutes. Whether the topic is of means I say something important and the student walks. This is 80% effort in life. I tell you, don't waste your time in the classes if you are of this kind of a person. No, because in this country you need 120% effort for success in life. Mind my words, I mean it. I tell you, I have seen it happening in front of my eyes for 32 years now. Average student will do it better in the examination because he understands this point. But some are here taking these classes as a ritual. Very soon, I tell you, at this level, energy means in the initial phase, you have some sort of excitement and all that. But let 2 months go. You'll be so burdened that you will take these classes as ritual only. Attending class would be sufficient in itself, no? For some students, and that would be waste of 2 or 3 attempts in this city. Okay, don't be so serious, no? These pravachans will keep coming. There's a Baba inside. No, inside only, not outside. Outside are other Babas, no? So, I repeat for Amit, higher the angle of the sun's rays, lesser is the thickness of atmosphere to be crossed, lesser is the amount of scattering and refraction, shorter is the duration of dawn and twilight. The angle gets little lower. There is a progressive increase in the thickness of atmosphere to be crossed, and amount of scattering and refraction would be progressively much more, and same so further. And therefore, I put it on the globe and I get the rule. Please write a statement in the margin. You were writing on seasonality. This will come again, so we'll not write all the notes here today. Today's topic is DST, so we'll see it later in the chapter season. So write on the margin one more point. The duration of dawn and twilight, the duration of dawn and twilight increases progressively the duration of dawn and twilight increases progressively towards the poles or towards the higher latitudes. Okay. Now there is a student Drishti asking me that would this DST be applicable in Southern Hemisphere during the summer? Yes, I have made a rule clearly. Whatever I speak about Northern Hemisphere, without anything about the Southern Hemisphere, it means the things are exactly the same for Southern Hemisphere. If it is not so, I'll make a clear mention of it. Yes, details would certainly matter as per the country's dates and all. Remember, which date they have to forward their watch, which date they have to come back. That nation will decide, right? But in general, it is in spring, forwarding a watch, and the fall, that is, they will come back. So, is it, just a minute, is it topic understood? Now, I'll make you write these notes, and if you have like, yes, what is the query? So yes, you will come across later some discussion in the class, not today, that yes, what could be a solution for people in Northeast, or there may be a general question for us in the main examination that what is the good suggestion for India? Should India go for 2 time zones? Should India remain 1 time zone? Or should India push its standard meridian little towards the east further and make people in Northeast have little more convenience? All these kind of things we'll pursue once we are little more mature to handle, right? But you are right, like we can think of all these kind of things, but we'll have to evaluate that what could be good for India. But presently, our governments are not much interested in any big change, right? Now, can I say indirectly, just to tell you what else may come later in our discussion? Can I say the time a country chooses on its watch will affect energy energy consumption? So we need to have, means there should be good studies in India that what kind of change will lead to what kind of energy conservation, etc. There have been some studies, but very less, and that too now very old. So we need to have good investigation of this. But since governments are not that much interested, so we don't have any solid point on this so far. But we'll have some discussion on this later. So please write, DST takes advantage of. Now, before I go further, there's a student Amit again saying, sir, how can we say it is conservation? If we are going early to work, then we are utilizing more. See, when you are starting as a nation 1 hour earlier, you are using the sun's energy which was earlier getting wasted. Okay, and you are having some secondary advantages that you are getting free from your work 1 hour earlier. Everything on the highways and all that is getting preponed. So darkness which you used to kill now, perhaps sunlight would save you from that, accidents and all that. Okay, so remember, do also keep in mind that the things otherwise energy was to be used also, no? But now you have started, you working 1 hour earlier, it means you are using your energy of the sun more efficiently. Rest of the things as will go as per your society, whatever energy consumption you are having for the kind of activities you do. Yes, please write a note. DST takes advantage of summer's extra daylight hours. Summer's extra daylight hours. Full stop, further right. Clocks are put forward. Clocks are put forward by 1 hour in spring within bracket just before the summer begins, within bracket just before the summer begins, close the bracket, just before the summer begins, close the bracket, put a comma, thus gaining an hour's sunlight, thus gaining an hour's sunlight during conventional waking hours, during conventional waking hours. I repeat, thus gaining an hour's sunlight during conventional waking hours. Then in the same point, write next sentence. Clocks are brought back to the original standard time. Clocks are brought back to the original standard time in autumn season within bracket, that is just before winter begins. That is just before winter begins. Now write the next point. The practice was first suggested. The practice was first suggested. Put a comma. Half seriously. In 1784. Half seriously in 1784 in an essay by the American statesman and scientist Benjamin Franklin. Full stop for the right. I repeat, you written the practice was first suggested half seriously in 1784 in an essay by the American statesman and scientist Benjamin Franklin. Full stop for the right. It was not until First World War. It was not until First World War. Put a comma. That several countries. It was not until First World War that several countries, including Australia, Britain, Germany, and the US, adopted DST as a means of conserving energy resources. Full stop for the right. In the same, besides energy conservation, the other benefits are, put a hyphen right, increased leisure time, and safer journeys on the highways. Now write the last point, that this is not good, it's not good for tropical areas. So write last point. In the tropical belt, put a comma, the lengths of day and night, change little seasonally. And there is not much twilight. Consequently, next sentence. Consequently, DST would offer little or no savings for tropical region. That's all. So this completes the topic for the time being, and as the things progress, then we'll have notes either through our magazines or otherwise, right? And you also keep an eye on these kind of things in newspaper. Now, jet lag we have done, you told me. So see, now for the time being, we will leave this chapter of time, and now we'll start with our main area of atmospheric science. So today, whatever time is left, will have a brief introduction for the topic of atmosphere or the field of atmospheric science. So please write the title Atmosphere. Now let me make a few basic observations on atmosphere, and then I'll give you the structure of this atmosphere, and then we'll focus on one particular part of this atmosphere, and you'll understand something important for the future classes if time permits. Now there's another Amit saying, the Amits are very active today. Other Amit says suggesting that try to speak slowly, it will more help us to write the. Did I go fast in notes? Never. I've been considered as a slow teacher only in terms of dictation of notes, no? Otherwise, means I keep repeating because I know if you are not able to write, then it is of no use, no? Means lecture is good only till the class is over. After if notes are there, only you will be able to revise that. So if you are not able to write, then let me know. Otherwise, I tend to go slow only. Yes, please. Now let's go for some basic observations with which we can start atmospheric science. See here. If this is the curved surface of the earth, atmosphere, which is like a blanket of gases or mixture of gases, it is held to our earth by the force of gravity. Now when I focus on this statement a little deeply, that gravity holds our atmosphere, then I need to understand one very important point out of it, that since gravity is pulling our atmosphere towards the earth's surface, so most of the mass of this atmosphere is confined towards the earth's surface. And you'll be surprised to know the facts if you are hearing it for the first time, that on one side I can say that atmosphere can be traced to heights as much as perhaps 10,000 kilometers from the earth's surface. Means traces of our atmosphere might go up to 10,000 kilometers from the earth's surface. And on the other hand, gravity pulls it so well that most of the atmospheric mass is confined towards the earth's surface, that I can say that about 99% of the mass of the atmosphere is within just 40 kilometers from the earth's surface. So see this, the traces of atmosphere perhaps may go up to 10,000 kilometers. So nothing wrong if I say atmosphere extends up to 10,000 kilometers. But since gravity is pulling the atmosphere, so as much as perhaps 99% of the atmosphere is, in terms of its mass, is confined within first 40 kilometers. Or 50% of the mass of the atmosphere is within first 5.6 kilometers from the earth's surface, or 97% of the mass of the atmosphere is within just 29 or 30 kilometers from the earth's surface. So if you just take this one, that almost 99% of the mass of the atmosphere is within first 40 kilometers, one thing is clear right in the very first point of the lecture, that for all practical purposes of this subject of atmospheric science, we need not consider much height of the atmosphere, no? Because most of mass is towards the earth's surface, and this is the reason that you will find in your school books that height of the atmosphere is generally taken between 400 to 500 kilometers from the earth's surface. So we'll do the same, that we'll take a height of 420, 450 or 480 kilometers. These are the kind of regular values taken in the books, and we'll try to divide this atmosphere to different zones. Okay, so write this first important point. Please write, atmosphere is held to the earth by force of gravity. Atmosphere is held to earth by force of gravity, and as a result, most of the atmospheric mass is confined towards the Earth's surface. The right, further in this same point, I repeat, sorry. Next sentence you write, atmosphere can be traced to heights as much as 10,000 kilometers, to heights as much as 9,000 to 10,000 kilometers, you can write as much as 9,000 to 10,000 kilometers. But, and now after but, you put a hyphen and write 2 or 3 statements, please write. About 50% of the atmospheric mass, is within first 5.6 kilometers. About 50% of the atmospheric mass is within first 5.6 kilometers. And about 99% of the atmospheric mass is within first 40 kilometers from the Earth's surface. And about 99% of the atmospheric mass is within first 40 kilometers from the Earth's surface. At about 99% of the atmospheric mass is within first 40 kilometers from the Earth's surface. Now then write in the same point further, therefore for all practical purposes, the put a comma, the height of atmosphere is generally taken somewhere between 400 to 500 kilometers, is generally taken somewhere between 400 to 500 kilometers. Okay, so this is one point. Now, second basic observation, please be on the board. Another important learning you had from school science was that our atmosphere does not get much heated by the direct sunlight. Now, reason is that majority of the sunlight comes to the earth in short wavelengths. This is what you will study in science and technology classes more in detail. So I repeat my point. Most of the energy of the sun which is reaching earth or is coming to the earth, it is in the form of short wavelengths, and our gases of the atmosphere are not good in absorbing those short wavelengths. So our atmosphere is not getting much heated by the direct sunlight. But this light heats our earth, the solid earth, and our earth is a very good radiator. And the out radiation by the earth is largely in the form of long wavelengths, and our gases are good in absorbing those wavelengths. So it means major heating of our atmosphere is through Earth's out radiation. So if that is the case, then the rule will be that as I go up in height, means as I go away from the real source of heat, I expect and I generally get decrease of temperature. Though I am going towards the sun, but I find decrease of temperature because the real heat is from the Earth's surface. So write this point. Earth's atmosphere, second important point, Earth's atmosphere gets primarily heated. Earth's atmosphere gets primarily heated by Earth's out radiation. By Earth's out radiation. within bracket, if you wish, you can write for your understanding, and not by direct sunlight. And not by direct sunlight, close the bracket. So I repeat my original sentence. You have written, Earth's atmosphere gets primarily heated by Earth's out radiation. So after bracket, and therefore with increase in height, put a comma, we expect, with increase in height, we expect and generally get, decrease in temperature. We expect and generally get decrease in temperature. Some student may say, sir, why don't you say that as we go up, we get decrease in temperature? Why are you saying we expect and generally get? Remember, though we understand our atmosphere is being heated by Earth's out radiation, but you know, we are dealing with nature, there would be some other complications also. So keeping in that, those complications in mind, we say that we expect and generally get. This is what is about UPSC also. Today you have one picture of UPSC exam, but you would see new variables will keep getting added. Yes or no? Picture will keep changing as you grow with this examination preparation. And finally time will come, picture will get blurred. Yes or no? I just wait, things will keep changing. So this is my second point, okay, very important for starting lectures on atmospheric science. Now we come to one more point. You know, whenever we think of heat transfer, we think of conduction. But the topic we have chosen today, that is atmospheric science, we know air is not a good conductor of heat. So we will see in the course of atmospheric science that air, since it's a poor conductor of heat, so conduction as a process of heat transfer is not much significant in atmospheric science. I'm not saying it doesn't have any role, but it is not that significant. And instead of conduction, the process of heat transfer which would be important in all my classes would be convection. Now, for the time being, the basic difference is that when we talk about conduction, we talk about solids and we talk about heat transfer from one end to the other through particles which are fixed. For example, if this pen is a metallic pen, if I put one end of it in a source of heat, after a few seconds I'll repent holding it, because heat would travel from this end to my end here. But in this transfer from one end to the other end, particles of the medium remained fixed. It was the heat which traveled from one particle to the other. This is what I understand as conduction. But when you have a fluid, gas or a liquid, now for example, if there's some water in this vessel and I switch on a burner of heat here, the heat will go to the molecules of the lower layers and these molecules will set in motion, and through that motion heat will get transferred to the molecules of the upper layers. So this process of heat transfer, which is by the movement of the particles of the medium itself, is what we call as convection. And we'll see in every lecture of atmospheric science that most of the heat transfers of nature are through convection. Remember, you have already been told in my third lecture that nature is what it is because of transfers of energy. Remember, there's a global heat imbalance. So almost every lecture of mine will deal with transfer of energy, and mostly it would be convection. Some particular cases will mention conduction, but otherwise it is the convection which is the mainstay of the whole lecture, the entire series of lectures. So please write. Air being a poor conductor of heat, put a hyphen, conduction as a process of heat transfer, conduction as a process of heat transfer, conduction as a process of heat transfer is not much significant, In atmospheric science, conduction as a process of heat transfer is not much significant in atmospheric science. Now, before I take you to convection, one exception which would be useful after some classes. Please see here. This is the curved surface of the earth, and this is the atmosphere attached to the earth by gravity. As a whole, when I look at the atmosphere, conduction is not important. What is more important is convection. But after some lectures, we will find conduction will be important in the lower part of the atmosphere, especially in this portion where the air is in physical contact with the ground. So conduction as a whole is not important for the whole atmosphere, but conduction is important in lower layer of the atmosphere, the air which is in contact with the ground. That air outside which is touching the road n number of times in a day, that would be in physical contact with the earth, so conduction would be important. So later, it's too early today, but you will see, for example, you will see in Delhi's winter or in other areas of the country, fog at night in winter season. So that fog would be the result of cooling of this air by transfer of heat to the cold ground. Means something would happen at night in Delhi or other such places of the world, that this air, let us say this air is A1, which is touching the ground, and this is air A2, which is aloft away from the earth surface. Now in A2 will not have the role of conduction, but A1, which is in contact with the ground, conduction would be important. And out of that conduction, this air will get cooled by losing its heat to the ground, and then you will have things like fog, mist, haze, dew drops, and all the other things would be understood. So this would be important for some special phenomena later. So just write within bracket a note. You have written conduction is not important, but within bracket make a note. Air does conduct. We said it's a poor conductor, but remember, no conductor or insulator is perfect as such. So we say air does conduct, put a hyphen, right? Especially in the lower part of the atmosphere, where the air is in contact with the ground. Lower part of the atmosphere where the air is in contact with the ground. Now, only solid. When you are in physical contact, then conduction can happen. Evening batches are, I tell you, year after year I have seen evening batches take the interpretation to anything. See, I'll answer your question later, right? Means let the lecture come on that sort. I'll make the transfer of heat, okay? No. See, let me make a guideline here. Lighter movements should be created only by teacher. Students will never go for that liberty, okay? Means I'm making this rule, it's too early. And remember, one rule of life is the kind of things you laugh at, that indicates the personality of the person, no? Remember, most of us would hide our cell phones today. Why? Because that shows what kind of social media we share with each other, no? I hope you understand the point. And you will leave it now. Okay. Nothing, I can come to the subject. We'll see conduction later, okay? Please write convection. Now what is convection? Now be on the board. That when you have gas or liquid, when we are talking about fluid, what is happening is the molecules will set in motion, and through the movement there would be transfer of energy. And throughout our atmospheric science, we'll see this happening. So write simple definition of convection. The process of heat transfer. Convection is a process of heat transfer from place to place within a fluid, from place to place within a fluid, caused by the movement of the fluid itself. Caused by the movement of the fluid itself. Now then write, caused by the movement of the fluid itself. Now be on the board for one important point. We'll be using the word convection, but you will see in your school books as well as in my lectures later, we'll also bring another term, advection. Now, how would we differentiate convection and advection? Whenever the transfer of energy by the movement of the particles would be in a vertical frame, I'll use the word convection. When the same transfer happens horizontally, I'll use the term advection. Now, to give an example of advection here, you'll see a lot of it in my classes. We will be saying very soon, when air moves horizontally, it is called wind. So wind would be an important agent of advection. That air will go from tropical areas of the world towards middle latitudes. So that would be a transfer of energy. And similarly, now very good, there is a student I was about to say, and there is a student Arush Pradhan writing ocean current, excellent. I told you briefly about ocean current the other day. What is ocean current? The horizontal movement of surface water of the ocean. So it means in our subject we'll have two major agents given by nature for the process of advection, wind and ocean currents. So please write, for vertical transfer of energy, we use the term convection, and for horizontal transfer of energy, we use the term advection. This is the simple at this moment. So for horizontal transfer of energy, we'll use the term advection. And when you write advection, please write, wind and ocean current are two major agents of nature for advection. Wind and ocean current are two major agents of nature for advection. Now, more on these things. See, these are the starting points. Now, more of this practically will be seen in every lecture. Now, to start something for atmospheric science, we need to first divide the whole atmosphere into different zones. So what comes in the next part of the lecture is that we'll choose a height of about 400 or 450 kilometers from the Earth's surface, and we'll divide this into different zones. So in a way, we are doing the structure of the atmosphere in the next half an hour or so. So what you do is, just give me 2 minutes and see the structure I make. Just wait for 2 minutes. Now, for better clarity, I'll be dividing atmosphere vertically into different zones in 3 different ways. First, I'll divide the atmosphere from Earth's surface vertically up in terms of the way the temperature varies with height. Since temperature would be my criterion, so my first scheme would be called as thermal zonation. Okay, you start writing with me. So first would be thermal zonation. Means I'll see as we go vertically up in atmosphere, how does temperature vary? Now remember, on the face of it, you have understood, with increase in height, we expect decrease of temperature. But you know, when things are complex, then you may have something more than what you expect, no? So we'll have some structure being understood on the basis of temperature behavior, and we call it as What kind of scheme? Thermal zonation. Second would be, as I go vertically up in the atmosphere, I will check the atmosphere in terms of composition. By composition, I mean how homogeneous or how heterogeneous the atmosphere is. So this division would be called as compositional zonation or zonation based on composition. And in the third scheme, what I'll do is I'll go up from the Earth surface vertically up, and I'll check that is there any part of the atmosphere which has some important role to play for life on the Earth surface. So this scheme I'll call as functional zonation. Means in terms of function the atmosphere plays. So third is functional zonation. Now in your school books, they mix all the three together, and that is why there's a little problem with the understanding. So for better better picture, I'm going for three different schemes. Now first one is the most important, that is thermal scheme. So let's see what are the different zones recognized by scientists in terms of the behavior of temperature with increase in height. Now what is the expectation? Let's write on the margin what exactly is the picture we have in mind. If this is the Earth surface, what is the understanding we have? That with increase in height, I would expect decrease in temperature, because as I go up, I'm going away from the real source of heat for the atmosphere. Now, when I start my journey from the Earth surface upward, in the first part of the atmosphere, I generally get what I expect in that picture. Means I get decrease of temperature, but I'm still saying I generally get decrease. It means there may be some special occasions where I do not get decrease, okay, but generally I get that. And this zone of the atmosphere from the Earth surface, where I generally get the things on the expected lines, is called in science as troposphere. Remember, why a particular zone is called what it is being called would be understood as we pick up each. First, we'll get familiar with what it is. So please write, first zone is troposphere. Now, briefly, we'll understand what it is. Here, in general, remember, in general, with increase in height, there's a decrease of, yes please, temperature. When I say in general, it means be ready for exceptions to happen, some special things to happen. Remember one rule, nature is very complex. So exceptions will always happen. Complexities will always be there. Means lots of variations will be there from general picture also. And what is the other thing you need to know? The question in the mind would be that up to what height from the Earth's surface we generally have this kind of experience, that decrease of temperature. Then at this moment I'll say from the Earth's surface up to an average height of 13 or 14 kilometers, I'll get decrease of temperature. So here I write up to average height 13 or 14 kilometers. Now the moment I'm saying average, it means this height up to which the decline of temperature is seen would vary, and we'll see if time permits today itself that over equator this decrease of temperature will be seen up to higher elevations, and this decrease of temperature as I go towards the poles, the elevation for that will keep decreasing, right? We'll make the diagram for troposphere if time permits today. So this is broad understanding at this moment. Second, after this average height of 13-14 kilometers, when I go further up, I find with increasing height an increase of temperature, and this zone, for some reason later we'll understand, is called stratosphere. So what is the definition of this zone? In general, with increase in height, there is increase in temperature. Now, you know, already we have covered up to 13 or 14 kilometers. So it means from on an average 13 or 14 kilometers, I have the beginning of stratosphere. Now the question is, up to what height generally I'll get to stratosphere? Then at this moment I'll say roughly up to 50 kilometers height. So from 13, 14 kilometers to 50, approximately 50. So right, up to approximately 50 kilometers. Remember, from average 13, 14 to 50 kilometers, okay? Now, after about 50 kilometers height, as I go further up, temperature again starts decreasing with height. And this zone is called as mesosphere. So here, with increase in height, there's a in general decrease of temperature, and it extends beyond 50 kilometers and goes up to roughly 80 kilometers. So right, up to approximately 80 kilometers. So between 50 to 80 kilometers, it is mesosphere. Fourth zone. So now we come to the last zone. Now you please, because you must be familiar with this since school days and you are reading NCERTs these days. So please tell me, what is the fourth zone called? Some students are saying thermosphere. Very good. Any other word? Ionosphere. Very good. Some say ionosphere. Please give me one more. Yes? Exosphere. Very good. In anthropology, they teach psychic unity of mankind. Means in anthropology, there is a school that given a common stimulus, man behaves the same way worldwide. Right? So this is what I find. Given a stimulus, I get these three answers in every batch. Not understood. Leave it. Means these are the three commonly given answers by the student. Now, we will choose the correct for this particular. See here. First of all, exosphere is wrong. What is exo? Means outside. Means beyond the atmosphere, the zone is called exosphere. Today we are doing structure of the atmosphere. So I will not go beyond the atmosphere. So exosphere is a wrong term, as suggested by one student. And in some books, even the authors write this exosphere. So please reject that particular term. Exosphere means outside the atmosphere. So it's a wrong term. Now, when you will see your school books like NCERTs, etc., at number 4, the school books you will find right thermosphere / or within bracket ionosphere. Now, why do school books write that way? Because I told you in the beginning of this discussion that school books mix all the three parameters together. But since I'm doing it separately, what is my basis? Thermal, that is temperature behavior. So for me, the appropriate term is thermosphere. Ionosphere is largely a part of thermosphere only, but it would fit in functional scheme. Okay, so I'm making it a little better by having three separate criteria. So here you write thermosphere. Now what happens here? With increase in height, there is again increase in temperature. Now see here, I avoid writing now final height, because I hope you understand final height would be decided by the person who is doing some research work as per the purpose of the study. I may take it as 400 kilometers, someone may take it 500 kilometers, someone may say no, I'll go till the traces are found, right? So let us not talk about the top of the atmosphere, okay? Let it be left to the scholar. As per the purpose of the study, he or she will decide. Now, so we have completed one scheme without any detail, because I'm just trying to make you familiar with the structure as such, terms, etc. Now, you have done some terms like upper limit of every zone. Have you heard of tropopause? So pause in Latin means to change over from one zone to the other. So please identify all the pauses of the atmosphere with me. What is the first pause? after after mesopause, you need to take a pause. Because see, a few minutes back I said, we will not go for final limit of the atmosphere. So remember, the top of the atmosphere is not a very concrete concept in science. No one knows what is the exact top. It is going to vary as per the scholar's purpose and all that. So since the top is not a very concrete concept in atmospheric science, so what we do is, we avoid using the term thermopause. Sometimes some books do that for some studies of some different kind, but we'll prefer only till mesopause, because we are not having very clear concept of the top of the atmosphere as such. Okay, so tropopause is the final limit of the troposphere, then stratopause, and then mesopause. Clear? Now, before I come to the second scheme, you might have a question here, that why the temperature behaves in this fashion. Yes, do you have a question here? That why temperature first decreases, then increases, then again decreases, and then again increases. Yes, are you interested asking this question or not? Now, if you are interested, then I reproduce an answer from one foreign author's book. One author, having given this, writes an interesting answer to this question. See this, what I say, don't write. He writes the reason for this. He says, the temperature, means he is going to give you the answer for this pattern of temperature variation. He says, if the reader is interested to know the reason for it, the reason is as follows, and he writes, a zone of the atmosphere in which temperature increases with height, there's a reason for it to increase. Wherever such a reason is not there, it decreases with height. And having written this, he goes to the next topic of the book. Now, what is your response to this answer? I repeat this point, that he says, a zone in which temperature increases with height, there is a reason for it to increase. Wherever such a reason is not there, it decreases with height. Now, the way you reacted, it appears as if you are taking this answer that he is not very right. Means you think that he has given a useless answer. But if it was useless, I would not have discussed it. Look at little deeper. He has given a beautiful answer. Means take it, just think about it, that it's a very good way of writing a book. Because you see, he is saying all this with this background already given to you. He has already told you that as we go away from the Earth's surface, since we are going away from the real source of heat, so we are expecting what? Decrease in temperature. So it means in a way you have no reason to ask about this zone, and means temperature is decreasing with height, temperature is decreasing in both troposphere and mesosphere. It is because of this. Yes, please. So if there is nothing special, temperature has to decrease because you are going away from the real source of heat. So he is saying, if in a zone temperature is increasing, there must be a reason for it. So now he is asking you to think about what could be the reason in stratosphere. And a little of thought will remind you that stratosphere has lot of ozone. Ozone absorbs ultraviolet radiations of the sun, becomes a protective shield for life on the Earth's surface. So reason is ozone. So here you can write on the margin somewhere, because of ozone. So see, tell me, is the answer good or not? That in a way he is asking the reader to think. And what is the reason for temperature to increase in thermosphere? You'll be doing it in my class, and otherwise you have done it in school, that in thermosphere you have ionization, and that would be the reason for the increase of temperature. So here you write, because of ionization. So see how good that statement is, that a zone in which there is an increase in temperature with height, there must be a reason. If reason is not there, you have to have this picture only. So in stratosphere, reason is ozone, and in thermosphere the reason is ionization. We'll see all this later, right? Now we come to compositional zonation. Now, on the basis of composition, now there is a student, why there is no ionization of the layer? See, everything can't be taught in one go, no? First we should know the zones, then only we'll go for the, so wait. If you have waited for so many years, means students have been very patient for 10 to 15 years in school and college. But all of a sudden now you are curious to know everything in minimum number of days. Give us time, no? On the basis of composition, we'll divide the whole atmosphere into just two parts. Now you find near the Earth's surface, in the lower part of the atmosphere, there is so much of mixing, there's so much of circulations that scientists find the lower part of the atmosphere is highly homogeneous, because there's a constant kind of diffusion, churning everything, like circulations are so much. So it means the lower part of the atmosphere is homosphere, means more homogeneity is there. What does it mean? It means near the Earth's surface, if you take a sample of air from anywhere in the world, at any time of the year, year after year, you will find that all the samples have almost same composition in terms of percentage of volume of, the percentage of gases in terms of volume as such. The reason is that there is so much of mixing, circulations are so great. So that zone of the atmosphere where homogeneity is good, we'll call it as homosphere. Now, after certain height, as I go up, the atmosphere will start losing that homogeneity, means homogeneity will keep decreasing. And finally, there will come a height where you will have the atmosphere not behaving as a mixture of gases. The different gases will start layering up, and the rule of the game will be the heavier gases would be towards the Earth's surface, lighter ones away. So if I have this kind of picture, so it means I can see atmosphere in two parts, homosphere and heterosphere. But the question is, where should I put a line? Generally, the scientists suggest that you can put a demarcation line roughly at a height of 80 kilometers from the Earth's surface. It means first 80 kilometers will take as homosphere. But remember, when I say 80 kilometers make homosphere, I do not mean that all 80 kilometers on the Earth's surface have same homogeneity. The homogeneity which I mentioned, that every sample of air would have same composition of the gas in percentage of gases, that is only near the Earth's surface. In the lower part of the troposphere, very, very close to the Earth's surface, there is a mixing, and that is why we have that same. Remember, in all school books you have seen a table where percent of gases are given. That table would not have been possible unless until you have great mixing of the gases there, and that's only for the lower part of the troposphere. So 80 kilometers is just a broad demarcation, but within this 80 kilometers from the Earth's surface, you may have decreasing homogeneity. But for the whole atmosphere, we can say 80 kilometers like a demarcation for homosphere and heterosphere. So right, first zone is homosphere. And up to approximately how much? 80 kilometers. And second is heterosphere. Now I'll not mention any height of the heterosphere because I told you that I try to avoid the final height. So there are two parts, homosphere and heterosphere. Now we come to functional zonation. This is already understood indirectly. See, in stratosphere we have a lot of ozone, and ozone acts as a protective shield. So when I see it from functional point of view, the zone where you have lot of ozone can be called as ozonosphere. So write the first zone here, ozonosphere. And I need not tell that it would correspond roughly to stratosphere, right? So simply leave it as ozonosphere. If you want, roughly coincides with stratosphere. And you know, in thermosphere we have ionization, means there are charged particles, and electrical and electronics engineers of the class will tell us that these charged particles have a role in making radio communication on the Earth's surface. So engineering students have done some layers called E layer, F layer, etc. In our geography classes, we'll have two important sub-layers of the zone, which would be named after the scientists like Heaviside layer and Appleton layer. Some of you might have read. Do you remember in school science you have done? some would have a problem that which school he talks about. Okay, anyway. But what is the zone called? Ionosphere. So just write a broad term, ionosphere. And ionosphere would coincide with thermosphere. So now we have very comprehensive scheme of the vertical atmosphere of the vertical structure of the atmosphere. We have all different terms, the parts which are recognized in science. I call it as comprehensive, though I have not given any single information on the zones as such. But structure itself is very comprehensive, right? Now, what we'll do after this? We'll pick up the first zone called troposphere, and we'll learn about this troposphere. Though I should not disclose, but I make the statement that in the next lecture, in the very first 1 hour's time or so, you will get to understand that when a geographer uses the term atmosphere, without any qualification, he or she only means troposphere. Think of this. There was a 15 marks question in the main exam year before last about the same point, that for some reason you'll understand that when I use the term atmosphere in any lecture of mine, then I would only mean troposphere. It means the day as a student of geography I wish to talk about any other part of the atmosphere, I'll have to specifically name that today I'll teach you about thermosphere. But till the time I use the term atmosphere, I would only mean troposphere. There's some reason behind it. Okay. So now today's time will not permit me to go for much details, but I'll at least show you the structure. And that structure of the troposphere will be understood in the next lecture. Where would you find? See, ozonosphere is coinciding with stratosphere, so it has found its space. Troposphere, what means? For ozonosphere, but it is not there. Ozone would be more of a pollution if it is there, right? But where is means basically we are saying that is there any particular part of the atmosphere which has some special role to play? So we are saying yes, there's a concentration of ozone, and that is named as ozonosphere. You ask me where, I'll say largely it is coinciding with stratosphere. Okay. Yes, please write troposphere now. Now I'll show you the diagrammatic presentation of troposphere, but how, why, and all other details would need some scientific understanding. Means we need to have some scientific concepts of school days to understand the details of that troposphere. That would be taken up in the next lecture. But today, first see what is troposphere, and how does it look like in terms of those height variations, etc. And this was a question a year before last in the mains exam, that what is the importance of this trop? Means whatever we will be doing in the next lecture, that was the theme of that question. Now please wait for 5 minutes and see the way I'm going for it. I take this line to represent the Earth's surface of entire northern hemisphere. Remember, we have already made a rule, if I do something on northern hemisphere, it goes the same way for southern hemisphere. Details may vary later, right? Now I'm saying this line represents the Earth's surface of entire north hemisphere. So for doing or for representing that way, I take this end as equator and this end as North Pole. Now, I'll come back to this line. Those who are not getting it, how do I represent this? I'll do that little later. Now, what is the definition of troposphere? It is the zone of the atmosphere from the Earth's surface where in general, with increase in height, there's a decrease of temperature. Remember, in general means mostly. It means there would be exceptions to be seen very soon, that within troposphere we may have increase of temperature with increasing height. But those would be special occasions, not the general picture. Okay. Now, this decrease of temperature with increase in height is seen up to higher elevations, over the lower latitudes. And as I go towards the poles, for some reason, the decrease of temperature with increase of height is seen up to lower elevations. Now, in particular, over the equator, the decrease of temperature with height is seen up to 16 to 18 kilometers. But as I go towards the poles, this decrease of temperature with increasing heights is seen up to lower elevations. Means as I go towards the poles, this height keeps declining. And in particular for poles, this decrease of temperature may be seen only up to 8 to 10 kilometers. It means tropopause, which is the final limit of troposphere, is not a horizontal zone like this, it is inclined zone with higher elevations over the equator and lower elevations towards the poles. It means this is the way we represent tropopause. Now wait for a while, just wait. So tropopause is what? Upper limit of troposphere. Now though a book or my diagram on the board represents this tropopause by a line, but remember, you must be mature enough to understand that nature never divides us abruptly. In reality, this tropopause would be like a zone of transition. Means it's not an abrupt ending at the beginning of this next zone. I'll give a thought here, good for essay writing. The earth is one, but the world is not. Please write this statement, very useful for essay writing. And this is what geography will prove. The earth is one, but the world is not. Now see, who gave us the earth? The nature, yes or no? Nature never divides us. But we human beings have divided our earth, and look at the political map we have produced, no? So write, the earth is one, but the world is not. Tell me, do you agree with this statement? That man has divided itself. And see, if I quote Lord Curzon, you'll study in history with the history teacher. Lord Curzon used to say, boundaries and frontiers are the razor's edge on which hangs the question of life or death, peace or war. See, we have created boundaries of India and Pakistan, no? That one step on the other side, I don't come back for many years. And say when a Pakistani will come to India, he will also not go back for many years, no? So we have created razor's edge. And this is all because of our politicians, no? Otherwise we have no reason to divide ourselves. So it is the man who has divided himself. Nature always unites. So one principle you will see in geography and ecology, that nature doesn't have boundaries. Nature has zones, transition, frontiers, like we join one with the other. In ecology, you will do a concept called biome and ecosystem, etc., where you'll learn ecotones. Have you done this? So you're moving from one zone to the other, but there's a transition zone where you'll have great biodiversity. Means A and B will mix together. So some species because of A, some species because of B, and some because of A and B. Yes or no? So this would become an important topic for the examination. So this is tropopause, not as a line, it's a zone of transition. Now, before you draw this diagram, you may have a question that someone may not be clear in the class, How does this line represent the entire Earth surface? Means in what perspective you are looking at the Earth. It's very simple. See here. Sorry. So this is the Earth surface from equator to the pole. So when we represent Earth surface, we draw these kind of small lines here. Now, how did I represent this diagram? In atmospheric science, I turn the Earth like this and put it here, no? So equator comes here, North Pole there. Is this understood? So please draw this diagram now. Now see, there would be some basic questions in your mind. For example, everyone would be interested to know why the height is more here. Remember, I hope you understand the average is taken as 13, 14. Because of this reason only, that variation from 8 to 10 to 16 to 18 kilometers. So first basic question in the mind is why the height is more here as compared to the higher latitudes. And this has been a question UPSC twice or thrice, that why the atmosphere is more over here, right? And I said that in the next lecture, in the very first half of the lecture, you'll understand that this is my real atmosphere, right? And that was the theme of the question year before last in the main exam. Now, for all these questions to be answered, we would need a few basic concepts of school science relating to convection, the movement of air, then the change of temperature of the air. All those things once understood, then it would be very easy to establish this diagram and then prove why this is our real atmosphere. Okay. So since we don't have time now, so if I do any beginning here, it would be a waste of time, no? We leave this diagram here, and what is the next part of the lecture? That we will go to study some school concepts. We will investigate all those things in the next lecture first, and then we'll return back to this diagram, which will help us to understand all the dimensions of it, okay? So I'll take leave from online students. Thank you very much. Keep smiling, right? Stay blessed. Thank you.